Welcome in to the Mile High Hoops podcast, and NBA.com today came out with their week 3 power rankings of everything going on in the NBA. And the Denver Nuggets, like you probably thought they were before the season, like you probably thought so far in the season, and like you might think going on to the future, came in at the number 2 spot. Anilo Piro and me, Jake Shapiro, are going to be going over that NBA.com power poll today, just kind of where everyone sits in the league, kind of makes sense of the Nuggets 3-2 start, and if we're a little disappointed by it, or if we maybe come away even encouraged by that 3-2 start. I think there's going to be some stuff later on in the show as well that we go into about, hey, the Nuggets have only played 5 games so far in 3 weeks. They're going to play 4 games at home in the next 5 days. So this is an interesting part of the schedule. We're going to get to be up and close and personal with these guys a bunch starting tonight with the Sacramento Kings and Russell Westbrook. That will be fun, the Russell Westbrook return game. We'll talk about that towards the end of the show as well, because we know Russ liked to get his revenge against his former teams. But today on NBA.com, the number 1 team in the NBA right now, according to NBA.com, surprise, surprise, it's the team who is 7-0 and won 71 games last year. It's the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I think the scariest part about the Oklahoma City Thunder at this point in Nilo is they have the best net rating. They are undefeated, and Jalen Williams is yet to play a game.
Yeah, not surprising, as you allude to, Oklahoma City essentially picking up where they left off from last season after winning the championship, 7-0. And yeah, no J-Dub out there so far for Oklahoma City. But again, this was, I think, the expectation in you and I's mind. We don't think that Oklahoma City is going to be any worse than they were last year. I mean, the expectation is, if anything, they were going to get better, if not stay the same. The reason you and I have been as confident as we are about the Nuggets against a team like Oklahoma City is because of the improvements that Denver made in the offseason that we've seen play out early on in this season. Jonas Valanciunas, Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr., Cam Johnson, all the new pieces for the Denver Nuggets, I think, will ultimately help them when they eventually face the Oklahoma City Thunder in the regular season and maybe even in a playoff series. But so far, so good for the Oklahoma City Thunder. They don't look like there's any, championship hangover for them so far this season.
And one of the things I've noticed in watching them is their pace has dropped off a little bit. Last year, they were kind of this torrid pace team. They took advantage out in transition a lot with their defense. They've been a little bit more of a half-court team, at least to start. That would be an interesting trend. And so far, with their offense being as good as it's been, if their offense continues to be that good as a half-court team, that is a dangerous proposition, because as we know, in the NBA in the postseason, it is more of a half-court game than a full-court game. Chet Holmgren's also missed some time here early on as well. So the Thunder are kind of just getting through it with their depth. And that's one of the things that made them so good last year, both in the regular season and the playoffs. I will point out that this week, they've also got 4 games. One of them is, I believe, part of a back-to-back with 2 games out in LA and Portland. So you could see that record finally get blemished soon. I'm going to go back. I'm going to find the statistic very soon here. But if you try to find teams that have beat the Thunder multiple times since December of last year, it's basically the Nuggets, the Rockets, the Pacers. We're talking about 5 or 6 teams. So, and granted, not everyone has played them twice, but I think it's a remarkable achievement the Nuggets have even beaten them twice. That's how good this Thunder team is. So no dispute with me right now. They're the number 1 team. We all knew that coming into the year, and they've started that way. Number 2 on the NBA.com power poll, like I said at the top of the show, it is the Denver Nuggets. And I think this is the most important stat with the Denver Nuggets right now, Anilo. The Nuggets are the only team in the NBA that is both top 5 in offensive rating and top 5 in defensive rating. And that is a huge sign. Even when they won the championship back in 23, their defensive rating, I think for the season, was somewhere down 20. But if you minimize it into the fourth quarter and crunch time, it ended up being pretty good, because we all know they locked in on defense. But the Nuggets, statistically speaking, in their championship run, was one of the worst defensive rating teams that have ever won a championship. So for them to come out roaring like this on the defensive end of the ball, we've seen it in a couple games where they've really gotten active in the lanes, I think has been really impressive. All at the exact same time. Last year, the Nuggets were up on the pace. This year, they're 21st in pace. And I think that's a good sign, because it's something David Adelman focused on at the start of the year, and they're following through. That means the team is listening and coachable to David.
Yeah, no doubt. And obviously, you like where the Nuggets stand in that perspective off the rip this season. But when it comes to the defensive rating, like, you kind of expect that with the opponents in which they've played so far this year, right? Phoenix isn't a very good team. You hold them to 111. I know Dante thinks they could be a play-in team. We'll see if that shakes out and whatnot. But yeah, you should have done that against Phoenix. You take on Minnesota without Anthony Edwards, obviously their best player, and you give up 114 in that game. So yes, you like the result, but again, no Anthony Edwards in that one. New Orleans might be one of, if not the worst team in the NBA this season. Take care of business there. And then the Portland game, I know the Nuggets don't win, but you hold them to 109 points. So yes, you like where the Nuggets are at in that defensive metric, but let's see how they play tonight against Sacramento. Let's see how they play Friday night against Golden State. Miami's not very good so far to start the season as well. But yes, the Nuggets are where they should be. Let's see if that holds up once they get to the meat and potatoes of this season against some quality opponents.
This is an incredible stat based off the first 5 games from the Nuggets. They've allowed just 40 points on 24 clutch defensive possessions this year. Okay? It's pretty solid. When you factor in the fact that opponents are shooting 7 of 8 on clutch 3-point shots and 9 of 10 on clutch free throws, that's 24, and that's 9 right there. So that's 33 of the 40 points that have been scored have come because of hot 3-point shooting and just a lot of free throws. And we look at how the Golden State game ended and the Portland game ended. Both, last second. Golden State gets it into overtime. Portland gets it on the last second on free throws. I feel extremely positive about where the Denver Nuggets are, despite the fact that both of those losses were pretty brutal. And it was super annoying to watch them unfold the way they have. Opening night, I think some things got lost in communication. They could have done a better job, yada, yada, yada. We went over that. Friday night in Portland, the refs absolutely just screwed the Nuggets. The refs screwed them. And it was Musaf Dagger, who has a vendetta against Nikola Jokic, and we all know it. And he calls the most ludicrous jump ball I've ever seen. And David Adelman's response was perfect, of saying, if that's the type of play they're going to litigate that way this year, we're going to teach our guys to do the exact same thing as Toumani Camara did there. Cool. Great. So that's the Nuggets' only 2 losses. And like you said, AP, been a weak schedule so far. So we won't know much until Black Friday, as we talked about on the last show, because it's a really weak start to the Nuggets season.
Can I say this real quick on the Portland game? I agree that they got screwed out there at the end, but can you also not give up 38 points in the fourth quarter? Those two things go hand in hand. The Nuggets should have never been in that position as well, to go back to the defensive conversation we were having, just real quick.
Yeah, and that's definitely part of it. But when you, in the final minute of a game, blow, I think it was like a 5-point lead, and do not allow your opponent to make a single shot, it's inconceivable how you lose that game. And it was because of the officiating. So,
yes.
I guess I've turned into the big officiating guy over the years. My friends keep making fun of me for it because I said I was never that guy, but I am that guy now. And that's okay, because you know what? I saw the Denver Nuggets overcome the officials and beat the Los Angeles Lakers in a playoff series when that was totally not supposed to happen that way. Anyway, speaking of the Los Angeles Lakers, right now in the NBA Power Poll, number 3 is the Lakers. I think they've been really impressive for their start without LeBron James.
That Luka MVP take's not looking too bad, Jake.
It's looking pretty good through their 5-2 start. Luka's been awesome. So Bronny's been playing a little bit. They went 2-1 without Luka, though, this little stretch of games, because Austin Reeves has been fantastic. And like I talked about on the last show, definitely making an all-star case. So I think it's interesting that the Lakers are up this high. I'm really excited to see their matchup against the Spurs later on this week, because the Spurs look like one of the better teams in the league.
I'm not going to lie. I lost your audio for the last 15 seconds there. So I'm not quite sure what you said. Okay. Dan, I'm going to push him up full screen, let him monologue for a second while we figure this out.
Tough. But basically what I was saying, AP, was I'm excited to see the Spurs play the Lakers here later on this week. The Lakers have been pretty solid throughout the course of the start of the season, and I want to see them against a real opponent with Luka Doncic on the floor and see what that all looks like. So that'll be one of the matchups I'm looking forward to this week as we talk about all the things that are going on this week in the NBA. Speaking of which, number 4 in the NBA.com Power Poll today was the Houston Rockets. They have been fantastic lately. They have won 3 games in a row. They've got a 3-2 record, And the Rockets at this point, after losing their first 2 games by a total of 5 points, including against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are undefeated, have beaten their last 3 opponents by a combined score of 73. They are one of the best offensive rebounding teams ever, according to the rates. And granted, we're 5 games in, so this is going to change, but their offensive rebounding rate is absolutely ludicrous. Amen Thompson has been solid when he's been able to get on the floor. I really think that this team was the team I thought they were going to be, that I got a little scared of Van Fleet injury, but there's some things they're still trying to work out. Like, is Josh Okogie going to be a starter? Is Steven Adams going to be a starter? I think looking at this team, and again, they have a matchup with us this week. They have a matchup with the Bucks later on this week. There are some things that we're going to learn early on about this Rockets team, and we're already seeing the potential for this team to be as good on that tier with the Nuggets and the Thunder.
Yeah, I think it's well said. And Nuggets and Thunder aside, I think that's what I'm kind of keying in on in this, call it till Christmas, right? Like this first half of the NBA season of like which team is going to emerge, or maybe which teams are going to emerge in the Western Conference that can be legitimate threats to contend with the Nuggets and the Thunder. And as you alluded to, I mean, Houston's definitely looking like a team that could play to that level. You and I have talked about time and time again, Victor Wembanyama and what the San Antonio Spurs are doing. We'll see if they continue to progress. The Clippers are always going to be a competitive team in the regular season with the pieces that they've got as well. But yeah, I mean, I think early on, you've seen some of these teams that you and I expected to be competitive hold up their end of the bargain, sprinkle in the Lakers, who have been a little bit better than maybe you and I expected without LeBron James. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. And I think, if we take a step back, and this is maybe easy to say, let's hope it comes true. We should not have any major concerns, injuries aside from the Nuggets or the Thunder for that matter, throughout the course of this regular season, right? Okay, you drop a game here like you did against Portland, lose a couple of games here. That's going to happen. But to me, it's really about the Nuggets and the Thunder kind of holding court and seeing which team or teams emerge over the next 2 months as a legitimate potential threat in the Western Conference of those two.
Yeah, I think it's which teams emerge is the question. Between the Cavs, can they come back to that level they were at in the regular season last year? Can Houston get there? Can the Knicks get there? Those are some of the questions. I mean, I do have some legitimate questions about the Nuggets and Elo, and it's something I was going to bring up here towards the end of the show. But I'm still concerned about their backup point guard position. I think Jamal Murray has done a ton of work here early on. I still have some question marks about if they have enough playmaking on the floor. Again, we're super early into Cam Johnson. I don't know yet. But watching the Nuggets playmaking is paramount to me, because that is why they lost the last 2 years in the playoffs. When they lost, was they didn't have enough playmakers on the floor. So watching that get integrated throughout the course of the season, and especially now that they have a stretch of home games where they can try some things, that's going to be something I'm really watching for. And to see if Bruce Brown can get back to that 2023 level of being an offensive initiator and not just kind of a wing player, because he does so many things versatility wise that are interesting. But, Bruce's role is a little bit more defined, I think, this stint around. And, there's a 15th roster spot open for a reason. It's because the Nuggets didn't really know what was going to be their issue. To me, I'm still watching backup point guard. The big thing seems to at least been solved. So rolling through some other stuff quick. So these teams, I think, are kind of down a little bit of a tier, but I don't think the Lakers are in the top tier necessarily, but they've been playing like it. I was really high on the Bucks coming into the season. NBA's got them at number 5. Their net rating is 7th in the league. I think Giannis Antetokounmpo is just really, really strong, and this is going to be kind of one of his last runs, maybe the last run in Milwaukee. And Miles Turner has been one of the more underrated players for a while. I think he was a huge part of the Pacers' success last year. So watching those two play together has been really cool, and they've made a big jump in the last week. The Warriors come in at number 6. I think they look a lot more like the team that we saw down the stretch with Jimmy Butler after they acquired him than they did in the playoffs when Steph Curry got hurt and they were kind of a shell of themselves. No surprise, Steph Curry is healthy. But I would caution people and tell you, like I said, coming into the season, one of the Warriors of the Clippers is going to be a real contender this year. So far, it's looking like the Warriors, and you can really see it, AP, with how this team plays.
Yeah, I mean, the addition of Al Horford is absolutely huge for them. I don't think that can be stated enough. And I know that he's an elder statesman kind of on the back nine of his career. but he just adds that third layer to them, whether it's offensively, defensively, as a counter or a complementary piece next to Draymond on defense. And then obviously just being able to shoot the three and, shoot from range while having the size and touch in and around the basket. I mean, he's just been a complete game changer for this Warriors team to open up the season. Now we'll see how it progresses as the season goes along. But you talk about Jimmy Butler, right? Kind of a quarter-ish, eighth of a season last year to kind of get his feet wet, including the playoffs, full off season, learns how to play with Steph. You add Al Horford, right? So there's a lot of good things going in Golden State right now. And you mentioned it too. I mean, San Antonio cracking the top 10 and the NBA power rankings. You and I have talked about it a lot on this show to start the year, that maybe San Antonio's time is now versus next year or the following year, on top of Golden State having that championship pedigree with Steph and Steve Kerr and Draymond Green, adding Horford and Jimmy Butler. So yeah, I mean, I think early on, those are definitely the two teams that have kind of emerged, but you can't sleep on the Clippers in the regular season. Like, they're going to win a lot of games just by the nature of the NBA and the nature of the talent they have. Like the Lakers, I know as much as we hate talking about them, they're probably going to be competitive, especially once LeBron James comes back. I mean, the West is the best. It's a gauntlet. We've known that for a long time, but that's why I think it's even more important for Denver to take care of business in this little home stretch that they have. And, you got Golden State on Friday, but you got to beat Sacramento tonight. You got to beat Miami on Wednesday. Should be able to beat Golden State on Friday. Interesting, another early season test against them. So, the Nuggets have to control what they can control, and they're able to do that with this little 4-game stretch at home.
So on that little 4-game stretch at home and looking at the power rankings, as you mentioned, AP, and as we just talked about, Warriors on Friday night are in the top 10. They're one of the better teams right now. But the Nuggets start off this stretch with the Sacramento Kings, who are 26th in the power poll, and they're 2-4, and they look pretty rough to start the season, quite honestly. As if acquiring the 2024 Chicago Bulls was a bad idea. They have done it, and they added Dennis Schroeder and sprinkled a little Russell Westbrook on top of it. Then the Nuggets have the Miami Heat, who come in on this power poll at number 16. And then later on, they've got the Pacers this week at number 25. So a real chance to build something this week. I think the Warriors are really the only team here that the Nuggets view as a threat of the teams they play. But on tonight's game, the Kings at least were a little more competitive in Oklahoma City the other night. I think they're still trying to figure out exactly what their starting rotation is. And when you go into a season with the question of like who your starting five is, I think you have so many big fish to fry early on, whereas the Nuggets know what they're going to. There is no, question of what the Nuggets' identity at this point is, and they can always revert back to Joker and Jamal. The Kings, what are they going to revert back to? Sabonis go out there and help, save us. Zach LaVine cook up in the ISO. So I think this is what I'll be looking for tonight, is not only the Russell Westbrook revenge and how well does he play and how bad does he want back at the Nuggets, but I'm going to be looking for individual matchups. How well does Cameron Johnson guard whoever he's supposed to be guarding in a one-on-one factor tonight? Is it going to be DeRozan? Is it going to be LaVine? Is it going to be Russ at times? Is it going to be Schroeder? That's one of my questions. Christian Brown has had a bad start to the season, and I'm not ready to be all out on CB yet. Whatever. It's fine. Last year, I talked about this a bunch on Hoops. The start of the season, CB was pretty good. And then he had this lull throughout late November and early December. I'm just hoping that lull is the start this year and we see CB get back to himself. That it's fine. It's early. We're not judging players based off 5 games. So can CB guard, LaVine tonight? Well, will be one of the things I'm watching. Jamal's got a little calf thing right now. Is he going to be tested by any of these guys? And then, we've got not only the Russell Westbrook revenge angle, Anilo. We've got the Dario Saric and Valanciunas revenge angle.
I forgot about the Dario Saric angle. I actually just saw him floated out in like a trade scenario earlier today, and I just kind of deleted any thought of Dario Saric from my memory. Not that there was much to begin with, just because of how he played or lack thereof with the Nuggets last season. But yeah, it's an interesting matchup tonight for a couple of reasons. You throw out Dario, you throw out Russell Westbrook, Nick Clifford as well, Colorado CSU guy, local ties here in the state and whatnot.
He's a buff.
Yeah, I know. I got to be objective about it, but no. So there's a lot going. Let me say this as well, Dan. Here's your clip, so get ready. You're looking at this 4-game home stretch for the Denver Nuggets, and I agree. I think you want to see Christian Brown get going. You want to see Cam Johnson on defense. Like, this is an opportunity for the Nuggets to kind of really establish themselves in their rotations and overall play and confidence moving forward. You tell me if you think I'm wrong here, Jake. Anything less than a 3-1 record on this home stretch would be disappointing. Golden State's going to be tough on Friday, but Denver should absolutely positively clean up the rest of those games, if not all four.
Yeah, you're talking about the Thunder being 6 or 7-0 right now. If the Nuggets went 4-0 during the stretch, they'd get to 7 wins. Like, you're talking about being one of the elite teams in the NBA. You got to go out there and defend home court. And I think the Nuggets, at least in their first 2 home games against, inferior opponents, have gone out and just absolutely demolished on home floor. So I'm looking for them not only to win 3 games, but in 3 of those games, they should probably be up 20 on their opponents at certain points throughout the course of their game. So yeah, I'm with you, Anilo. The only game I expect to be even close is Golden State. And even over time, the Nuggets have just demolished Golden State the last couple of years at home in a couple of different matchups. So that's what I'm looking for over the next week as well, AP.
Yeah, no, and I think my mic also cut out again at the end there, so we're having some technical difficulties today, but I picked up some of what you're saying. And to kind of go general here for just a moment as we wind down, I think for the Nuggets and this team, like I liked what you said a couple minutes ago about like we're not judging Christian Brown, we're not judging Cam Johnson 5 games into this season. And ultimately, it's going to be about developing that camaraderie and that overall momentum with this starting group. And I do think that Denver will have an opportunity to do that here tonight. And again, I'm sorry, I didn't pick up on what you were saying there at the end, but I'm just excited because it feels like it's been like, not on the Nuggets, but because like the lack of games kind of where we started today as well. Like this season it's felt a little slow. And the fact that we're going to get these 4 games kind of like, back to back, I know not literally in regards to back-to-back days, despite Friday and Saturday, but the fact that we're going to kind of get this 4-game sample size, I think will tell us a lot about this Nuggets team. I've been on record with you saying I'm going to wait till about 10 games in before I kind of start casting some judgment. So we're getting closer and closer to that number. We'll be pretty close to that after this little 4-game stretch. So excited to see how it plays out.
So I guess we're getting your official take on the Nuggets a week from Thursday, which will be after the Nuggets' 10th game against the Kings on Tuesday of next week. So he's Anilo Piro. I'm Jake Shapiro. We'll be back on Thursday for more Mile High Hoops here on Denver Sports. See you then.